Well, hey guys, how you doing? It's me again. It's Paul. It's Plan Z. And in a slight change to what I said I was going to do in this video, I'm going to be focused on something that came up in the group, a BOS GT1000 group, that will be quite useful for anyone that uses a guitar modeler. It's a post-production technique that you can use in pre-production. Really helps you get your tone together. It's called an EQ sweep. Now, you need to use a parametric EQ for this. And I'll just tell you how this video came about. Over the last couple of days in the group, there was a conversation. A newbie came into the group. Oh, I'm having troubles getting my low end right. And someone piped in, someone quite experienced was like, oh, take this frequency and take that frequency out and boost this. And I was sitting there thinking, that's really odd advice, because every guitar I've got is made from a different country, different company, different continents, a lot of different going on in there. So what you need to do is find the frequencies that your guitar and your gear is generating and then pull that out. And there's no rule of thumb to that. If you're a music producer, and I would urge you to check what I'm telling you by going look at some music production videos about EQing, and in particular EQ sweeps and subtractive EQ, which is what you want to be looking at doing unless you're boosting a signal. You want to pull frequencies out rather than put frequencies in. So this video, the next part, I'm just going to cut in a little second to a screenshot where I talk you through an EQ sweep and how to do that. And this can be done on any modeler. I'm using a BOS GT1000 and HXEFFECTS, and I'm going to show you the GT1000 to show you it. In fact, I'm just going to crack on with that. I hope this video is useful. If you want to see more videos that go into signal chain and how I go about things, then yeah, give this video a thumbs up. And if you don't, give it a thumbs down, and I'll stay focused on jamming and pulling the new tunes up and what you see in the first part of these sessions. Yeah, take care. Hope you're well. Bye. Okay guys, here we are. We're going to do an EQ sweep. I've got nothing on the chain other than a compressor sitting at the front end, which is coming from the HXEFFECTS, so you can't actually see it in the chain. It's actually there in my effects return. Even though the effects return is after the amp, it places the effect before the amp. We've then got a natural amp. So if I come down to the amp, you'll see that I've got my gain at 50, got no sag in there, taking some of the resonance out. We've got our level at 50, bass, middle, treble all at 50. We've got presence at 40, and we've got a mid-gain amp. So I'm just going to go across to the EQ block I want to use for this. And what we're going to do is, first of all, I'm just going to show you. That's what that sounds like. Okay. So if I hit the EQ on, you'll hear there's no difference because we've not done anything yet. So what we're going to do is, in this EQ, first we're going to put a high and a low cut in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the end of my parametric EQ here, and I'm just going to do a low cut to... Now normally I go to between 100 and 125 because I'm using kick drums and other things. So what I want to do is just show you what happens. So I've brought the cut to 100 there. I'm going to turn the EQ off. So this is what it sounds like without anything. And then if I engage it with the cut, it's just taking out the mud. It doesn't really affect my tone. So you can see here, if I go to 125, doesn't really affect the tone much. So you know what, I'm going to stay on 125 right there. Now with the high cut, I usually start at 10, and depending on the tune I might drop that to 8, and as you can see, it hasn't really affected my tone an awful lot in the high end. Now something like the BOS GT1000 is a full frequency response, so you want to bring that high cut in to get closer to an amp sound, because an amp doesn't really push anything out above 10. So now what we're going to do is move on to an EQ sweep. So here I've got my frequency to select, and at the moment we're on 100, and there we've got the Q. Now what you might not know is on BOS gear, the lower this number is, so on 0.5, the widest that Q is. If you don't know what I mean when I say bell, Q bell, look at some post-production online EQ videos, and you'll see in your DAW, if you upload an EQ block, you can visibly see what that looks like. So on its widest bell is on the smallest number, and on its tightest bell, so if you were boosting here, it would look like a spike if you go to the top number, and the top number I believe is 16 on BOS. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to increase the gain to where are we? Is that about 15? Yeah, we're on about 15 there, so I'm kind of almost maxing it out. And what we should find here, I'm going to play an A, and what will happen is we've just boosted the 100 Hertz. That's all we're doing. So you can hear there's a bit of boominess there, but that's because we've boosted it. And I'm just going to sweep through so you can hear what happens. And to sweep, I get the frequency and I just move through the frequencies and listen to the sound change. See there, not liking that. So 250, I don't like that straight away. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull that 250 down to about -3 to start with, and then I'm just going to widen the Q a bit. So I'm going to bring it down to about the middle, so it's like a standard Q, and then I'm going to move to my next frequency. Now all I've done is take that mud out. I'm going to move on to my next frequency. So knowing that we've taken 250 out, I'm going to start on 315, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to bump my gain, I'm going to bump the Q, sorry, I'm hitting the wrong button. So what I'm going to do now is just, you hear the change? There's something there in that 615 I don't like. Okay, so I'm just going to come back down. Now some guitarists will pull out 500 Hertz. I find on my Les Paul, I actually want the 630 Hertz. So what I'm going to do, see that sounds, I don't like that nasalness. Whereas if I go to 5, the mud is there. Now I might take that mud out in another EQ in a second, but for the second, I'm just going to take that 630 and drop that. I'm dropping that to again about -3, but I'm going to leave it on a slightly tighter Q. Okay. So now, if we were to compare that to our original sound, which I'm going to do for you now, you'll hear that we've cleaned up the mud and the low end. We've not boosted anything. I'm using subtractive EQs here. This will really help you in your mix, particularly if you're layering guitars. And then if you want to boost something, then yeah, boost it for solos and things that want to cut across. But if you're playing rhythm parts in or what have you, it's good to use subtractive EQ. So that sounds nice and clean now. Let's do some strummy strummy. Okay, that sounds quite nice for me. Now what I do need to now check is if I need to do anything to my gain stage there. So what we've done is put an EQ in, and it's probably affected my volume. Oh yeah, it did. See, now a lot louder without the EQ there. So as part of my gain stage, and you need to do this with every block that you put in, whether it's an effect or an EQ or whatever it is, you need to check your volume level against what you previously did to make sure that by the time you haven't got to the end of your chain, you haven't done one of two things. You've either boosted yourself too much that it's just going to sound awful, or you've cut too much out and you've got no tone. So that's what it's like with, and we can hear our volumes drop. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bump that by 3 dB. So now as you find, when I turn it off, we're about the same, but this sounds cleaner, crisper, and will sit better with my drums and bass. off. See, that's muddy. This is much brighter. Now note it's brighter and we haven't boosted any of the top ends yet. So I would use, if I want to push something, once I've got other things in my mix and I want to push other frequencies, I would then add another EQ block. And from there, I will be careful with the EQ I select, and I'll do another EQ sweep there to find the frequencies I do or I don't want. Now you'll find there's high frequencies you don't want. So what we're going to do is, well, actually I'm going to keep this video short. You do exactly the same process as I just did, but you do that with your high frequencies. And when you find a frequency there you don't like, pull it. There's no rules. It's about your guitar and your gear. Go hunting for what your gear and your guitar is generating. Don't let anyone tell you, oh yeah, it's always this frequency. That's fool's folly right there. If you were producing music, you wouldn't do that. Hopefully this has been a useful session. Yeah, hope you're well. Take care. Bye.